Well, hello and welcome to the Alpha Anywhere demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Products and Services here at Alpha Software, and I'm pleased to be joined by Dion McCormick, no relation, who is our lead solutions engineer. Today, Dion will be doing a presentation at the beginning of our webcast, but he's also here to answer your questions. So please type those questions into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel, and it'll help us have a lively session. So let's get started. Hello, Dion. Are you there? It looks like you're on mute.
Yes, I am. There we are.
Hey, excellent. I like the new mic, by the way. It sounds pretty good.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's just a little Yeti mic.
Yeti. Oh, I love that. All right. So let me go ahead and make you the presenter, and we'll get started.
Awesome. There we go. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We have actually today is a heavy Q&A day. I've got a couple quick announcements and some other updates, some really fun stuff coming down the road. Actually, I'm broadcasting live from fabulous Burlington. Make sure it's in right. Massachusetts. We're in Massachusetts, right? I forget. They're all kind of here up in the north. They're all so mashed together, man. You drive like 20 minutes, you're in a different state. You know, you drive in.
It's not
you can
Texas
go 7
anymore.
hours in Texas and still be in Texas. So yeah, you kind of not used to all these short distances. And I'm also still getting used to the fact that nobody can pronounce the names the same way from town to town. I don't get it.
No,
you know?
no, it's just never going to happen here. No. Yeah.
It's like, I feel like, can I buy a vowel? Like one that I know that is said the same way every time. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for taking time. I'm really enjoying myself. I love coming up here because just amazing energy. There's so much going on, both on the transform front, on the Alpha Anywhere. There's some amazing work being done by the development team to take Alpha Anywhere to the next level, both increased functionality, but also decreased effort to get things done, things that took a lot of effort before, getting simpler and simpler all the time. And so we'll have some of that coming out very soon. I've got a couple cool things they've just released in the pre-release factor there. Got a couple questions that came in over the week. We really appreciate those. Always send us questions at guides@alphasoftware.com. We'll try and cover them as much as possible. But things are really rocking and rolling, very, very busy there. As we've mentioned before, and I'm going to keep touching base on it, the team is not standing still. There's really, I see there are really two, even though the roadmap is broken into 4 sides: client builder, client side, making it better to create front-end systems, which I'm going to talk about a little bit about today. But improvements on the server side on Alpha Cloud, and also the Transform project, which again keeps getting more and more powerful. There are really 2 initiatives at all time from I can discern from the development team. One is enhancing functionality, i.e. Improving, adding capabilities, newer, simpler ways to do things. And then also along with that, which is as important or equally important, is the ability to do things simpler. So what was a complex task is now much simpler. And so there's some recent additions to the pre-release. And again, the pre-release is available. Actually, let me go over here to my website there. And if we go in here, we can go to the okay. So you can always check out the latest pre-releases at our pre-release notes. And in fact, I think we can get it right here on the help. Here we are. If you go into your Alpha development environment and you go to the help menu, there is a view pre-release notes. When you click on that, that opens up the pre-release notes for Alpha Anywhere. And we'll see the latest one was on the 9th, which was, well, is that tomorrow? I guess we're a little early. Or is my watch off? Okay, so wow, they've invented a time machine.
Oh, exactly. Right.
The development team has invented a time machine, and they haven't told anybody. Well, you have to read the pre-release notes to see that there's a time machine available. If you don't, you know, you're up to you. Anyway, this is where you go there. There are the pre-releases that are available for both the development environment and the different app servers. Very important, as we always say, not built for production, but you can download it and test it on. You can actually install it on your local machine. I tend to do it on a virtual machine, but it's really up to you in terms of how you want to manage that from there. Very important if you have a development environment that for your local dev system and in production, you got to make sure that you update, a dev system with a sort of a test environment for development and a test environment for your production server, got to make sure you keep those in sync so they work properly. But a couple things I want to announce, and we kind of talked about a little bit more, and we're going to be doing in much more detail, is two-factor authentication. There is a new capability that allows you to do two-factor authentication, which is very, very, very cool. Oh, let me go down and see if there's some more details. I'll come back to that in a second. We go, sorry, scrolling. I hate to scroll too much, but yeah. So two-factor authentication, which is very powerful since it enables that higher level of security that is so important these days. And people are getting more and more used to the two-factor authentication. I mean, I use Macs and I get little text saying, Dropbox, all these tools. And it's a very effective way for you to protect your systems and more importantly, your customer systems. So the recent pre-release included in our base security framework, the ability to do two-factor authentication. And it works really, really nicely. And we're going to be doing some demos in the near future to show you a little bit more how to set that up and get that enabled. But that can really take your security environment to the next level. But the one I want to talk about today, and this just literally hot off the presses, and it's got the most elegant name ever created for a new function. Ajax callbacks chunked responses. And I had a lot of fun in college, and the last time I heard the word chunk was in college, and it wasn't referring to any programming technology. Had the word blowing in front of it, and that was just, so I don't have the best connotation, but that's just me. I'm that guy. Anyway, go check it out. It is so cool. This is so neat. Okay, so for people who are not familiar with XBasic callbacks, it's a way for your mobile solution on either web browser or on your mobile phone to make a call back to the server, run some code on the server, and then send that result back to the front end. So it's really handy for like quick and, like I want to collect some data, go run a process on the back end and bring it back. Now, the challenge is if you have a very long running process. So for instance, I've seen things where people are running reports or doing some analysis. So they'll have their user interface on the device, like the web browser. They'll click the button, you'll get the wait message, and then you'll manage and put your own wait message. Then it goes back to XBasic, and then XBasic will run that process. And that could take 3 seconds, could take 30 seconds. I mean, 20 seconds. So it could be a little longer, and it may be a multi-step situation. And what you want to do is keep your people informed, because everybody has such a short attention span these days that if anything goes over 2 seconds or even a second, they think it's broken. So so the challenge was, okay, I want to send that Ajax callback, but I want to update the user. But the traditional was you sent it and you just had to wait till the XBasic was done, and then it would send the result back. And there were some other tricks where you could like create a series of calls that happen one after the other, or you could use WebSocket server. But all of those kind of required more effort for you to get the environment set up, more points of failure. Well, what this allows you to do, it's really cool. And there's a video, you can just watch the video. I guess I could just say, go watch the video. But what it allows you to do is you can define a XBasic function that will make a callback. But then this is really cool, is that you have a little command that you can have in your XBasic that will, during the processing, send a message back to the front end to update the user and say, throw up a message or do something else along those lines. So the idea is the XBasic callback happens, you start running some code, and then you can, if you want, create your own little JavaScript and then send that back to the browser. And so for instance, this will set a inner HTML so that they see a little message called still working. Or you could like add another message and another message, and you'll see the example in there. And this happens on the XBasic side. So if I have a long process where it's like, okay, for step 1, I want to create a report. Step 2, I'm going to email that report. Step 3, I'm going to record the results of that email or do something else. Each of those steps may take time. What you can do is you can do step 1, then send a message back to the user saying, okay, step 1's done. Then in the meantime, the XBasic continues moving along. And then what happens is it allows you to then send the next message like, oh, the report has been sent, and then I'm doing my updates. And the nice thing is it does all the hard work for you, so you just have to emit these little, during your xbasic command, you can just go in and add some other little steps. Very, 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 very cool. Very exciting, and really, really dig it. And so check that out again. It's pre-release, very easy. There's a great video with some example files for you to download, and you're really going to enjoy that. One other one that's really kind of intriguing, and I haven't even played with it, but this is in the list builder. There is a new feature, hot off the presses, that allows you to either Excel or CSV file. Now you can use a list builder and actually connect directly to an Excel file or a CSV file. Now, you'll see that this, you give it the file name of where it's located on your server. In this case, you'll see it's on a Amazon AWS, which is nice since it will always be available and up to a large degree. But what this allows you to do, which is really cool, is that now you can, instead of having to move data, let's say you get a monthly report for Excel. So someone submits a monthly report. The normal process is, okay, now I've got to take that Excel file and I have to upload that into my database. And then I've got a list that's tied to that database, and then I connect to that database. Well, you can skip all that now, and you can basically just point to that Excel file right from your list, and then use that as the data source for your list, which is kind of really fun and interesting. And we're going to be doing a little demo of that also coming up pretty good here. So very cool. It's just neat stuff, and really, really enhances what you can do. And there's an example you can go in and there and play. We put up an example file that you can play with that, and it allows you, and all the features there. For instance, you can pass filters and arguments and things like that. So it allows you to simplify how you build front ends from, say, Excel backend sheets. So keep an eye on, we try to highlight as much as possible the new kind of capabilities in here. In terms of these new things like chunked responses, or using that as Excel as a list control source. But realize that, this is ongoing, almost daily releases, and there's lots of new stuff going. And there's a lot of other things that we're talking about in terms of really simplifying how you build your mobile applications, your offline applications. And we're just going to continue to focus and build that. And the team's really, really busy, considering what the amount of stuff they do is just staggering. So what I'd like to do is shift gears a little bit now, talk about a couple questions we got in, and give you a little update on that, and then really then open up your questions. So if you haven't taken the time, go to the Q&A or the questions section of the GoToWebinar control panel, put your questions in there, and we will be able to try and do our best at answering. If we can't, we'll do a follow-up beyond that. A couple quick questions that came in, and I'm sorry, one, there was a gentleman who came in who's been playing with the new styles. And the new styles such as, and I'll go in and show you, if I go to the styles on my UX, so I'm on my UX and I'm opening up the styles, we have a whole bunch of new styles that are available. And these styles are very interesting because they're a little different. You'll notice that we have Alpha Amber inherited from Alpha. So they use a different technique. So it's not a full CSS suite, but it's a way to take a base CSS, which is Alpha, and add it on to it. They were having an issue where everything worked fine on their development environment and live preview and working preview, but then when they went to publish it, it wasn't looking correctly there. So there have been some fixes in the last couple weeks on styles, and it basically, some things of how it was getting published weren't exactly done right, and so you wouldn't get the most, it wouldn't give you consistent results. So my advice, check out one of the pre-releases, bring it down, test it. That should solve your style issue, and then if it doesn't, let us know. It could be something else, but a lot of the style things that we've seen in the last few weeks have gotten cleared up. So styles are much nicer behaved and working very, very well. And that's, again, in the latest pre-release, so you can go ahead and download any of these pre-releases and then give it a test run from there. So if you're seeing any strange style behavior after you publish, then let us know and we'll go into it from there. Then the other question had to do with the ViewBox, and I deeply apologize. The question came in just a little while ago, and I just haven't had time to prepare, but the question was, they have a parent-child relationship in their back-end data, and they want to present that to the user in a ViewBox with a parent-child relationship structure. And I won't do it justice trying to just make it up on my own right now. So I'm going to put together a demo of how to do that. So the idea is, and just to give people a little there, is that when you have a ViewBox, let me go ahead and put in my ViewBox just to give you a little bit of the background here. Okay, so go to my ViewBox. ViewBoxes are hugely powerful. We highly recommend that you work with them. They really allow you to do some amazing things on your user interface. So as you'll see, we have you can have different sources of information, list, JavaScript song, but also database query. And that database query right now is going, you can point to your backend data and bring it down there. So the question was, a person has a parent-child relationship in their database and they want to bring that down and display it into the ViewBox. And so I just need to come up with a good example here. I can kind of, and really where it's going to go is right here. You'll notice that there's SQL query and then there's nested SQL query. So I've selected that the type is database query, but my SQL query is here. So just to give you a pointer, you'd go to nested SQL query, and then what you're going to do is you're going to build that, and in here you build that parent-child. So let me just give it a try. Let me do there. Oh, select my connection string. We'll just do north winds, and I'll add a query first one here. But I do want to do this. So I'll add a table, and so I'm going to add the customers table. Okay. Then what I've got is a second query, and this is going to be my order detail orders. Okay. Now what's interesting is that there's a parent-child relationship, so I go to customer ID and the parent to, the linking key is customer ID and then parent. So it's saying, what is the linking key in this child? So if I look at the fields, there's a field in my child table called customer ID. Then there is a linking field in the parent. In this case, it's customer ID. So therefore, each customer has a set of orders. And I can preview this. And you can see, here's customer, and then my order details here. So now that I've got that, I can go into my ViewBox layout. I'm going to add an item here. So I'm going to do customer ID. And then this is where I had to do a little practice, so I apologize. And then I've got order ID stuff here. And you'll notice that since I have a parent-child, it's saying child 1. That's the child record there. So let's go ahead and do that. And it's asking me, well, since you're doing a child, we need to do what's called a closing container. And so you have your child data group here. So this is your parent record. I'm only picking up one field, and here's your data group here. So now if I go ahead and do a preview, let's see if the preview works in here. It's making the call and getting the data. No, I have to talk. Okay, yeah, it looks like garbage. Okay, so let me go back in here and make an adjustment. When it opens up, it has to make a call real quick. So let me go to my ViewBox layout. I've got this here, and I've never understood how to do that. How do you do a return on that? Maybe you do it in here. So I'll come back and find that out. But I'm going to go to freeform. It'll convert it here. So I'll go BR, and I'll go orders, BR. Then I'll go ahead and just kind of doing some little cleanup here so it's going to look decent. But you'll notice that we have this concept where here's the parent record information, and that's just strictly the field name. And then we have this thing called child 1. And I'll show you where that comes from, where that's the bottom part here. And that's the child record. And you can nest this as many ways as you want. And what's too cool is you can do math in here and do some other cool stuff there. So let's go ahead and do a working preview and see what it looks like now. Still probably is going to be the most pretty thing in the world, but should be a little bit more understandable. And what it's doing is it's making a call. I could probably limit that data there. And let's go ahead and do one other thing just to make sure this is working there. And I'll come back and do a more extensive presentation. I know I've run through this really quickly. We just heard about it, but I kind of want to hopefully help out whoever called that they can do it. Okay. So this might give them some pointers to get going this week because we don't want you stuck. Okay. And there we go. So you'll notice we have ALF key, and then I have that static word order. So this was the customer ID. And then you'll notice that here is the first order, here's the second order, and then now, so you just go through each of these order items, and it's a little hard to see, but basically it's iterating through all the different orders there. And to make it more presentable, I wonder if I could just put in, let's see if I could put in some space. Was that, how do you put in a tab in there? Is it at NSBP or something like that? Or what is the, anybody know that? Let's see, this is a crude way to do it. You would want to do it in a CSS layout with some margins and things like that. Oh, you know what? Wait, maybe I can do this. Okay, I apologize, I'm having fun, but div1, div, okay, and I'm gonna put that behind a div / div, and then margin. How do you do an inset in that? Oh, you know what? Is it, I am not a.
What are you trying to do?
I'm just trying to put a box around it so it shows the differentiation. I'm trying to make this, maybe it's just that will do it.
So border style, border hyphen style colon solid.
Oh, border hyphen style. Mm-hmm. Look at you go. Cool. Okay, this, see, it takes
a one, border colon 1. I'm not sure if that's, you need that one, but that's okay.
Oh,
we'll see what it does.
Let's see it blow up. Blow it up real good. That's, see, this is what is called demo chunking. Come on, there you go. Okay, so you'll see, hey, that did kind of work. So you'll see here is that customer ID with the, the top part, and then inside that data group, here are all the records that go for that record. So now you can see, okay, now if I go right here, it goes, great, I've spit out all those records. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spit out the second customer, and then here are your customer records. So as you can see, you can use this as a reporting tool. This is one of the coolest things about ViewBox is that if you don't have to use our reporting, obviously we love our reporting tool, it's fabulous, but if you want to do here, and then you can use CSS to make it look gorgeous. It's just amazing what you can do and lay out some stuff and things like that. Now I want to go back and one real key important thing. I'm going to go back to the data source and I'm going to go into the nested query. Oops, and I'm going to blow it up. Okay, so very important is that when we built this, we had our parent and our child. And so it does the work of, and it's all it's doing here is it's generating a set of JSON in it with the parent information and then a series of child things. So it's doing all that hard work for us. Otherwise, we'd have to do what's called like a XBasic callback, or you could do something like that. Now, this is very interesting. You'll notice that here it says child 1. That was the default. So I could have actually said order details, and that's going to be the name. And you'll see in the JSON that now the order details is called there. So that child 1 was kind of confusing. So now I'll go to my layouts and I'll go here and say order details. So you can make it much more readable. And then you have to make sure to put in the closing tag here. And so then I'll save this, and it doesn't change the functionality. It just makes it a little easier to read and the ability to do the reading when you're looking at the JSON and other pieces here. And then I want to show you 2 other really cool things you can do, which is a lot of fun. Okay, so again, everything's same kind of there. So 2 things I wanted to show you, which is kind of neat, is that what is happening behind the scenes is that it's actually, when it's running, it's generating XBasic. So this is what's used to generate it in XBasic Oh, I'll have to show you that. It doesn't show the whole XBasic, it just shows this. But there is a XBasic Genie that does essentially the same thing. So if you don't want to use this, you want to generate another method, you can from that standpoint here. So let me go ahead and preview the query. And I'm going to select all. Can I select all? Yep. And I'm going to copy that. Okay. So obviously, once I've got this, I can go into this layout right here and kind of play with it and everything else. Kind of time consuming and really not built for that. So by the way, you have the ability to go here, go to Tools, Template Tester window. And again, I went a little fast. If you go to Tools, Template Tester window, go here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to paste that JSON there. And I'll get rid of this stuff. I don't need that here. Okay. So you can see, I can see the JSON right here. So now I can go in here, and it's a lot of JSON. I can go here and go customer ID. Okay. Oh, it's got to be case sensitive because we're in the world of. Okay. It should spit out customer. Oh, maybe just taking a moment. There's a lot of data, so I'd probably cut it down a little bit more. Jeez Louise. And do I have to put a root in here? Maybe I have to do, yes, because there, okay. And there's great documentation on here. And if this doesn't work, I might need a little help from the. Am I improving this in? But bottom line, what it allows you to do is you put in your JSON here, and then you can define your template here, and you'll see an immediate update of it here. And then once you've got that done, you can copy this template here back into your ViewBox and paste it into your ViewBox, and you'll be good to go. So let me see, did I misspell that? Customer ID. Let's put it, actually I can sit there and say menu, insert, field, I think it is. There, okay. Must not be updating it. I think I might have so much in there, but it should be pretty quick. But you can see that this is basically inserting that default template. Here are the fields, and then here's that command to go over the order details and the items here. I'll come back and check on that, and we'll do a little bit more on that.
Just out of curiosity, what's that menu underneath preview, by the way? There's
this just show HTML. It should be immediate, and I'm not sure. It must be something on mine. Let me go ahead and load an example. And
you're not doing a pre-release during a live demo, are you?
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, it's just I'm getting some timing. It must be doing stuff in the background or something like that. So you know, once you have your there, then you can come in here and say, hello, first name. And then I can go here and say, for instance, I want to put a BR. And then BR. I think that's the only piece of HTML I really truly know. So you notice that I can just edit the template and see the result right here immediately. And so therefore, instead of me spending time in the ViewBox control, laying it out and going around here, you can also preview right here, but I've found that's not as reliable. You can just grab your JSON, grab your template, and oh, there it goes. Yeah, it goes there. So you can use either method, but I find this one is really handy because you can insert like format declaratives or things like if-thens. Like for instance, you can say if name is Fred, then make it a certain color. So this is just more of an interactive design tool that allows you to do it. Then once you're good to go, you just copy this template, go back into your ViewBox, paste it there, and you're done. And it works really well. You can create some amazing looking stuff. So let me go ahead and you can also save this. So once you get it working, you can click save here and say my webinar test. And therefore, if I never need to come back, so I'll load another one example. There's this one, it'll take a moment. And again, you can put in JavaScript, but you can see it's showing a color-coded kind of grid work that's been done here. That's an example of what it's done. Here's the JSON, here's the template here. But I can say, oh, I want to go back and work on my webinar one. Comes back in here and then it updates it from there. So use this tool. It's really nice. It's running a little slow on mine. Usually it's incredibly fast, but I think I've got a few background processes going on that are slowing me up today. So long story short, quick and dirty on how to go to a SQL. I hope that gives enough there. If it doesn't answer your question, send us more updates or what we missed here, and we will dig in and we'll do a little bit more work and make sure that that answer is there. And then Dave, I'll just move it over to you for any other questions you might have. Or
that sounds great. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question we have is someone asking about designing for the iPhone X. So they want to have a UX component and they want to size it for the iPhone X, and they are aware that the iPhone X has got a UX component template that you can use. But the question was, do they just move their stuff into that template? How do you use that template? And also, does that template work with phones that aren't an iPhone X? Will it work on a smaller phone? Is it responsive? Does it resize?
That one's a great one.
Oh, no,
I haven't done much work on there. Let me go ahead and go in here. So
we
just
didn't
show
stump
what
the
they're
chump,
talking
did we? No, all right.
Okay. I think there is. Yeah. Okay. So the iPhone has a very interesting situation because of the notch, which was enormously controversial at the time. When you design, there's that, it can throw off the top portion of where your app is at. So you have to take into account certain things. Now, you'll see in here, there's a really good discussion called Styling a PhoneGap app for the iPhone X, because there are specific things you need to have that are available. And so Bob Moore did a great job of talking about, okay, we've got this little notch here. What's different about it? You'll see that, it kind of comes down here and then you have these things on either side. And then what's going to happen though, is you'll notice that on the iPhone X, it just doesn't look right. You'll see here is my regular iPhone. You've got a control bar area here, and notice what happens. Oh, wait a minute. Parts of it are cut out. It's different animal there. So you have to actually go through and do it. So this discussion goes through and talks in heavy detail there. And then there's also some PhoneGap plugins that you need called Status Bar and Toast to actually make it work well. And this is all when you're building it for PhoneGap there. As far as building responsive, I think you can, but I'm not sure. I'd have to go in and do some. I haven't built for the iPhone X, so I'm kind of at a little bit of a loss. I haven't even reviewed. I'm looking through this real quick. Yeah, you may have to kind of, there's a UX template that shows you how that should work, and so it has that information to help get you started.
So I think Sarah might have something
Yeah,
to add on this. If she doesn't, we'll let her chime in, and if not, we'll because there's a iPhone X property section also for PhoneGap. So we'll oh, there's Sarah right now.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, there's a checkbox in the UX properties to enable iPhone X support.
Ooh, can you share your screen? Can you show it to us?
Yes, give me a second.
Sure.
I'm gonna hide my passwords file. Okay, I'm ready.
All right, I'm gonna make you the presenter and go ahead and click the box.
Good. We got a smart person online, everybody.
I know. Wow.
Finally. They've been like dying. Can someone who knows something actually talk on this webinar?
Yes. So in the UX properties, which is when you have your UX builder open, there's the properties section over here. There's a property down in advanced called apply iPhone X PhoneGap Styling. And by default, it's going to be off. But if you turn that on, it'll give you access to the iPhone X PhoneGap settings. And this is a builder that lets you decide how you want your app to appear, whether or not the status bar displays over the web view, hiding the status bar, the style of the status bar, and the background color. So this is newer than that template that we have. So if you want to have iPhone support in your app, go ahead and turn this on, and it should integrate everything you need into your application.
Sweet. You have to listen to me.
Cool.
That's great. Now the question is, if you have a, is that responsive, meaning can you like build once and deploy to both iPhone X and non, or you kind of have to bite the bullet?
I believe the answer is yes, because with the IPhoneX styling, it keys off of some special CSS that if it isn't present, it doesn't break anything, but if it is present, then it follows the rules.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, I guess I'll talk to Chris. He's our super expert on that, and see if he's built through and see what he's seen on that. So very cool. Thank you so much, Sarah. That's really super helpful.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to hand control back over to Dion, and I've got another question. This also is PhoneGap or mobile related. And the question is, how do I add third-party JavaScript so that it works in the PhoneGap shell? Or can you? I've added it to the head section in properties, but I find that it's not there when I'm trying to load it. So do you have any advice for maybe to troubleshoot an issue like
well,
that?
Usually how I do any JavaScript stuff is I create libraries, JavaScript files, and then in my UX.
Actually, can we stop and actually back up and just talk a second about the PhoneGap shell? Because I realize there's going to be some people on today who don't know what the heck that is. So review it, that would be cool.
Okay, so this is for testing the PhoneGap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Let me go ahead here, and we'll show that it is. Let me go ahead and show what it is. Although instant updates kind of supplanted this, but let me go ahead and create a UX companion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So at the very bottom, we've got
Shell 2 is what you want. Okay, so built into Alpha is a template called Shell 2, and it's a really neat template because basically it builds a PhoneGap app that you can put onto a mobile device, and then you can connect that to your development machine, and basically within that shell launch a something on. You do basically a live preview through the PhoneGap shell onto your phone. So the benefit of that is that you don't have to go through and rebuild every time you want to test it on your phone, and so all you do is you can say, oh, make a change on your development environment, go into live preview, and then your shell, you can refresh it into the shell, and it basically pulls the UX over into the PhoneGap environment and then runs it there. And one of the cool things about that is that it's actually running within PhoneGap, so it can access all the hardware and actually do things like SQLite databases and all the other things you can do when you have the PhoneGap shell presented. So you build this once, deploy it to your phone, and then you can then dynamically load things in. So it's a development tool more than anything else. And people have similarly used the Alpha Launch product, and also now with Instant Update, you kind of, once you built that PhoneGap shell, it's essentially Instant Update is really the same concept where you have a shell type entity and then it will pull that data dynamically. So I've been tending to use that a lot more. That said, it is a PhoneGap app. So let me go ahead and open up the shell. And it's got a bunch of pre-made stuff here. I'm not going to go through all that detail there. But what I'll usually do is if I need JavaScript, I just put them right in here. So if I have some JavaScript that's going to be needed, you'll see there are some standard JavaScript that's already been created that supports the shell function. So that's in here. So you can add your own JavaScript in here if you want to. Now, there's another option that I have used. I've gone to properties and I'm going to search for JavaScript. And there is something called JavaScript linked files. So if I don't want to put my JavaScript right here on this UX, I can go in here, create a JavaScript file or bring it in. Like that's where if there's a third-party library I'm using, I'll bring it in here. And then when I go back here, I have to go in here and basically list out what those are. And so what happens is when Alpha builds this, it pulls along that JavaScript file along with the UX. So when it goes, it says, oh, there's this JavaScript file I need to include. It automatically includes it. If it's like a web-based solution, it just sends it down along with the UX all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and includes that JavaScript file, so it's available on the local web browser or mobile device. In the case of PhoneGap, it would suck that through there. I don't know of any specific requirement. Let me go ahead and do this real quick since I've got it. I'll go ahead and open up the PhoneGap builder. And there I was doing a cool there. I don't think you actually have to tell it any other here. This is all just, you know, what, yeah, I don't see like where you need to tell it the JavaScript. I think you do it at the UX level and it'll suck it in. But we can double check that and make sure that that's the correct information for you. You can include additional files, but that the UX really is responsible for that. So
Okay.
So one of those two ways is include your JavaScript right in the JavaScript pane functions within the UX, or attach it as a file so it's available within that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Next question is, hey, can you do searches on a ViewBox like you could do a list box search?
I don't know. I haven't seen that. That's a great question. Let's see. Let me go to JavaScript functions and let me just look at, I'm going into my functions here and I'm going to insert method, and that opens up my documentation here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is how you would probably do it. You can't actually emit a search to the ViewBox, but if I go back to my ViewBox, if I go to my data source here and I go into my query here, you'll notice that when I build this query right here, let me go ahead and let me update that there. I can include arguments in here. So I can actually add arguments into here so that the arguments are used. And that argument could be from a different control on my user interface. So the way a ViewBox works is that basically what the ViewBox is doing, let me go right here, is it's just generating some JSON. And so in this case, it does here. So every time I say refresh this ViewBox, it's running this here that's going back to the database, pulling it in, creating JavaScript. So I can modify this query to be parameterized through arguments. And so when this occurs, then what will happen is that the JSON that comes back will be filtered based on that criteria. And so the ViewBox itself doesn't do a search. It basically filters the data that's going to build the ViewBox, so the data that comes back here. So a way to do a search of a ViewBox is actually just add the values and then refresh the ViewBox with those sort of that updated sort of filtered results, and that is the same thing as searching it. Now, if you're looking if you can search through the text there, it's just HTML and CSS, so technically if you're on a web browser, you can just say find and it will search through the, the page, but that's using a crude method. So really the way to add search to a ViewBox is to basically refilter what the ViewBox data is built on. Now, this is doing it through a query here, but you'll see that there are other data source types that are available. For instance, it could be a REST API, so therefore you recall that REST API with some credentials. It could be a JavaScript function that generates the JSON. And in there, what's kind of cool is that you could actually, in JavaScript, filter the JSON and then do that there. Last but not least is you can do a custom where you actually call an XBasic, create the JSON and send it back, which I've used before for more complex scenarios here. So I think the only way to really do it, then, unless I'm misinterpreting what people are saying, is that basically refresh the ViewBox, but set the filter criteria so when that refresh, you get a subset of the JSON, and then the JSON will render in the ViewBox with that subset of filtered data.
Gotcha, that makes sense. Someone is asking, when did Firebase authorization get included?
I know, I was looking at it. Yeah, they're probably like, what the heck is he doing there? Let me go back to here. That's kind of cool. The answer is, hell if I know. I'll go to PhoneGap here, do a base build, okay? And you'll see, yeah, there's a feature in here called Fire. let's go ahead and enable that. Yeah, I've never used Firebase, so it must have been for a project or something like that. Someone needed that or something planned for the future, but kind of cool. But it says you need a credentials for a Firebase app with Firebase authentication. And Firebase, isn't that a Google product, I believe? I mean, it's kind of crazy, but I don't know
Yeah, well, it
much
says
about
at the
Firebase.
bottom, authentication through Facebook, GitHub, Google, or Twitter. So.
Yeah, but I think
But yeah,
Firebase is
you're right.
actually
It
owned by Google
it might be a Google
product.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So.
And the other follow-up was, will there be integration with more Firebase products be available? I'm not sure, but if you want to send an email to guides@alphasoftware.com, I could talk
Yeah,
to our
Firebase is
development
kind of
team
cool.
and
A lot of
see what they should be
popularity.
doing. Yeah, great. I think we're running low on questions here. So if anyone wants to get in some last minute questions, that would be it. Someone did ask about DevCon. We are not at this moment planning a DevCon for 2019 because the one in 2018 was so good, we decided we didn't have to do another one. So, what we are seriously planning though is we were looking at maybe 2020 for our next DevCon, and we were kicking around some ideas. One was, like February in Florida, which is cool because, it's nice weather, but it's also a pain in the neck to get places in February. A lot of people have taken extended January breaks. So I don't know if that's a good one, but
All those
hey,
snowbirds.
since the people on the call are often the same people who attend our conferences, if you have suggestions for where and when you'd like it to be, just send us an email to guides@alphasoftware.com. I'm thinking like maybe late March or something like that might be a good time. Your chances of getting snowed in are very, very small compared to February, which is a huge. I know you're laughing being in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we have a lot of snow days. We have ice days. We do. It's like it's proof that hell freezes over. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, gotcha. So yeah, very good. Anytime out of the NFL season, I've been told. Okay.
Yes. Oh well, NFL Schmel. I want it outside of football season, college football season, college game day.
Oh, that's right.
That's the interesting stuff.
Yeah. Someone's suggesting Hawaii.
Oh,
that sounds. I love that idea.
There. I'm sure once they get those 737 Maxes rerunning, then there'll be a lot of available seats.
Won't be a problem, right? Exactly. Yeah. Cool.
Too soon.
That's it. So, Dion, I don't know if you have anything else to add. We might be breaking early.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hey,
thank
you everybody for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Again, if there's stuff you need, get it to guides@alphasoftware.com. We're looking for ideas. We'll be doing more deep dives in some of these new features so we can really explore them a little bit more and get you up to date.
Two-factor authentication in particular, we've had requests for. Yep.
Yes.
Great.
Dynamite.
Awesome. Thank you, Dion. Thank you, everyone who showed up, especially those who asked questions. Hope to see you at next week's Alpha Anywhere demo and Q&A webcast. Take care and have a great week. Bye-bye.